What's up, guys? I was remembering a clip from Jonathan Peugeot when I saw a YouTube video from a rationalist YouTube channel. And the rationalist YouTube channel was trying to explain some of the pitfalls of AI and the dangers of AI. And it has very cute animation. It's called Rational Animations, great channel. And while I was watching this video on genies and AI and the dangers of a genie, it reminded me of a clip from Jonathan Peugeot about how sort of this post-modernity will inevitably lead to the rise of sort of spirits and mythology and this re-enchanted vision. I couldn't find the exact clip from Peugeot that I wanted, but here's he says some similar ideas all the time. So here's another clip.
I pointed to the Goya's famous engraving that everybody's probably seen, which is you see a man sleeping and you see all these kind of monsters coming out, and it says it's written on it, the sleep of reason produces monsters. And I trying to point to that and say, there is a normal human cycle of being, which is awake and sleep. What Steven Pinker is telling us is if you just stay awake all the time, then you won't have any problems. And then if you fall asleep, then I can get angry at you and say, hey, I told you to just stay awake. Like, if you just stay awake, then you'll have none of these problems. Like, the monsters come when you fall asleep. So don't fall asleep. But this is absurd. That's not.
And so this clip, I think he brings up the idea of the falling asleep, of the sort of shrinking down of this narrative of not just going through rational sort of deterministic logic and reason, but going through the rise of new ways of understanding through condensing things down into story, into myth, into this is where we get our monsters and the idea of witches and wizards and warlocks and genies. And that's not to say that those things are not real, but to say that they are condensments of reality, because we can't hold everything in our heads at all times. And so if we want to convince someone of something or change their mind or change their behavior, we often have to tell them a story or describe something using these little shorthands. And these little stories that this rationalist channel that's warning us about AI is creating, it's the reemergence of the genie and the wizard and the warlock. And they have these little sort of fun animations. And if you think about the Twilight Zone, people would say, well, that's just a fun, fun, interesting way of telling, science fiction stories, of telling fantasy stories. And it's like, well, the whole point of this rationalist channel is to get you to believe rational things, is to change your opinion, is to be rational. And so why are they returning to sort of enchanted mythological creatures to get you to be more rational? Why don't they just be rational with us? Because guess what? I can't hold every outcome in my head at once. I need to use a shorthand. I need to use a story to shorten what is in my head. So first and foremost, I just think it's interesting that we're getting the reemergence of, even in an avowedly, like, I'm sure that all these people with this channel are new atheist or new atheist adjacent, rationalistic, but they're certainly doing a good job of telling mythological stories again. And they're telling us these mythological stories to change our behaviors, to change how we see the world. And they're using the tools of mythology to do that. And then I think once we get back into that enchanted world, there's a secondary effect of it tells us about the world that we live in. That if you really take the examples they're giving us, and we don't just say like, well, they had to use a shorthand, so they use this, mythological storytelling structure. But if we instead say that people need stories and people understand the world through stories because stories are descriptive of the world, then if we take them seriously, we can understand more about the world that we live in. So that's why I wanted to go through this video that was produced by this Rational Animations channel. And I'm just going to go through the video and we're going to listen to most of it. And then I want to describe how much I think that this overlaps with a sort of mythological, enchanted view of the world, even coming from someone who's avowedly a rationalist telling this story.
The Hidden Complexity of Wishes by Eliezer Yudkowsky. There are 3 kinds of genies. Genies to whom you can safely say, I wish for you to do what I should wish for. Genies for which no wish is safe. And genies that aren't very powerful or intelligent. Suppose your aged mother is trapped in a burning building, and it so happens that you're in a wheelchair. You can't rush in yourself. You could cry, get my mother out of that building, but there would be no one to hear. Luckily, you have in your pocket an outcome pump. This handy device squeezes the flow of time.
All right, it's going to get more logical, rationalistic, left brain, but just know that basically it makes the chance of what you wish for more likely, and then the odds of something that wouldn't line up with what you want less likely, and then keeps running the simulation until it gets an outcome where what you wish for happens. So that's the basic idea. I mean, it's just a genie. I mean, as it said in the beginning of the video, what we're really talking about are genies and lamps, and just describing how genies might work in the world. I mean, it's very fascinating on its own. I'll link the video in the description, but we're going to jump around. One thing I think is funny is that you can tell that this is written by left brain mathematician rationalists, is that they describe how this machine works.
For example, spitting out $10 might have a 99.999999% reset probability, and spitting out $100 might have a 99.99999% reset probability. So
that's pretty funny to me, of like, they're trying to explain how, if you wish for a lot of money, outcomes where a lot of money happens, more money happens are more likely than outcomes with less money. So $10 is less. But if you get that from the first time they describe that, with the 999s and the 999s, I just think it's very funny. I don't know if that's the clearest way to describe that, but that's very much so. It's very it makes me appreciate where this is coming from, because it's clearly coming from very left brain mathematician minds, which is great. They're great people. They're good people. We need them. So we got our genie lamp. We got the grandma stuck in the burning building. Let's see what happens.
Attainable maximum. So you desperately yank the outcome pump from your pocket. Your mother's still trapped in the burning building, remember? And try to describe your goal. Get your mother out of the building. The user interface doesn't take English inputs, but it does have 3D scanners for the near vicinity and built-in utilities for pattern matching. So you hold up a photo of your mother's head and shoulders.
All right, so we're just going to skip to the
You cry, get my mother out of the building, for luck, and press enter.
All right, he makes
For
the
a
wish.
moment, it seems like nothing happens. You look around, waiting for the fire truck to pull up and rescuers to arrive, or even just a strong, fast runner to haul your mother out of the building. With a thundering roar, the gas main under the building explodes. As the structure comes apart, in what seems like slow motion, you glimpse your mother's shattered body being hurled high into the air, traveling fast, rapidly increasing its distance from the former center of the building. On the side of the outcome pump is an emergency regret button.
So basically, you wish for her to get out of the building, and the building explodes and flings her body outside of the foundations of the building. And no, the outcome was bad. It's a monkey's paw. That the genie actually didn't do what we wanted it to do. And this is terrible news, because we didn't want our grandma to be flung out of the building. We wanted her to be knitting a sweater next to us. Why, genie? Why did you do this horrible thing? I also like how clearly they're squeezing a lot of like these like hypotheticals, and clearly very left brain people who want to go through every possible permutation. So not only does your grandma get flung from the building and not get rescued, but they also describe that there's an undo button as part of this if something bad happens.
All future functions are automatically defined with a huge negative value for the regret button being pressed. A temporal reset probability of nearly 1, so that the outcome pump is extremely unlikely to do anything which upsets the user enough to make them press the regret button.
So not only does it maximize the probability of some parameters that fulfill your wish, but also there's a chance there's a regret button, but it doesn't want you to press the regret button. So it spits out probabilities that lower the chance of you pressing the regret button. What could go wrong?
You can't ever remember pressing it, but you've barely started to reach for the regret button. And what good will it do now, when a flaming wooden beam drops out of the sky and smashes you flat?
So it's not that you didn't not press the regret button because you liked the outcome of the wish. You didn't press the regret button because you were crushed by the beam. So, you know, I like how they run down this other. Not only does the wish not work out the way you wanted it to, there's even a regret button that you can't press, not because you don't want to, but because you can't, because you're crushed by the beam. So, you know, this is all pretty standard monkey's paw. Like, oh, the wish didn't go the way we wanted, and we can't even undo it because we're crushed under the beam. The beam. And so yeah, we're grooving to the beat of you know, of we don't, you know, oh, standard, like, oh, is this an evil genie who purposely did these things? Is the genie not want us to be happy? Is it a Satan monkey's paw situation? Devil went down to Georgia at the crossroads. Let's jump around a little bit more.
No wish is safe.
No.
If some
No wish is safe, but rational animations, there's no Satan, there's no monkey's paw. How could no wish be safe? If we just use our rationality to program the appropriate parameters, of course it'll give us the proper results. Don't you realize there's no Satan in the universe? There's no bad guy hiding behind a curtain. Like, we should just be able to rationally use the wish machine.
someone asked you to get their poor aged mother out of a burning building, you might help, or you might pretend not to hear. But it wouldn't even occur to you to explode the building. Get my mother out of the building sounds like a much safer wish than it really is, because you don't even consider.
See, as a human, as a rational human, I would either help and I would try and get their grandma out of the building unharmed, or I would ignore them as a rational human. But, you know, why is this rational machine? Why is this deterministic machine, probabilistic machine? Why is it having such trouble with my wish?
The plans that you assign extreme negative values. Suppose you try to patch the future function by specifying that the outcome pump should not explode the building. Outcomes in which the building materials are distributed.
See, what's going on here? Let's jump around. So let's jump around.
Ordering than an outcome where she was rescued safe and sound. So you not only value your mother's life, but also her health.
Okay, so okay, yeah. So we value her life and her health. So this is okay. We just need to get more rational. We just need to, we need to wish for. I wish my grandma was far away from the building and healthy. That's just, it's getting more and more clear. Like, my wishes are getting more and more obvious, and I can just solve the problem by adding parameters to my wish. I wish my grandma was outside of the building and safe. That should be fine, right? Right, rational animations?
And you value not just her bodily health, but her state of mind. Being rescued in a fashion that traumatizes her, for example, a giant purple monster roaring up out of nowhere and seizing her,
we don't want that.
Is inferior to a firefighter showing up and escorting her out through a non-burning route. Yes, we're supposed to stick with physics, but maybe a powerful enough outcome pump has aliens coincidentally showing up in the neighborhood at exactly that moment. You would certainly prefer her being rescued by the monster to her being roasted alive, however. How about a wormhole spontaneously opening and swallowing her to a desert island? Better than being dead, but worse than her being alive, well, healthy, untraumatized, and in continual contact with you and the other members of her social network.
So you in contact, well, healthy, in connection to you and the other members of her social group. This is what we want. This is the wish that we need to wish. We just need to think of all the parameters for this scenario. What we see on screen right now, grandma with her cup of tea, the grandkids, and grandpa in the background. How do we get that into the genie's head? How do we make the genie think what we think?
Would it be okay to save your mother's life at the cost of the family dog's life?
They're going through more of these bad boys. Okay, I don't care about the dog. We already get the idea. We got the dog's life. We got, what about if prisoners, died in the fire but saved grandma? What about if we lost a famous concerto, but saved grandma? These things are bad. And Now we get to the crux. Like, why are we having such problems with our freaking wish? This wish should be pretty simple, right? We should just be able to add the parameters.
Your brain is not infinitely complicated. There is only a finite message length which suffices to describe all the judgments you would make. But just because this complexity is finite does not make it small. We value many things. And no, they are not reducible to valuing happiness or valuing reproductive fitness. There is no safe wish smaller than an entire human morality.
All right, and that's basically the whole point of this video. Any desire, any wish that we have has to go through all of our morality.
There are too many possible paths through time. You can't visualize all the roads that lead to the destination you give the genie. Maximizing the distance between your mother and the center of the building can be done even more effectively by detonating a nuclear weapon, or at higher levels of genie power, flinging her body out of the solar system, or at higher levels of genie intelligence, doing something that neither you nor I would think of, just like a chimpanzee wouldn't think of detonating a nuclear weapon.
So if you have a really powerful genie, maybe the genie will do something, bend fifth dimensional space and save your grandma somehow. We don't even know how this genius genie could save your grandma, but we're trying to fit our morality. We want the genie to do the outcome that we want. So how do we just make this powerful genie do what we want?
You can't visualize all the paths through time, any more than you can program a chess-playing machine by hard-coding a move for every possible board position. And real life is far more complicated than chess. You cannot predict in advance which of your values will be needed to judge the path through time that the genie takes, especially if you wish for something longer term or wider range than rescuing your mother from a burning building. The only safe genie is a genie that shares all your judgment criteria. And at that point, you can just say, I wish for you to do what I should wish for, which simply runs the genie's should function. Indeed, it shouldn't be necessary to say anything. To be a safe fulfiller of a wish, a genie must share the same values that led you to make the wish. Otherwise, the genie may not choose a path through time which leads to the destination you had in mind, or it may fail to exclude horrible side effects that would lead you to not even consider a plan in the first place. Wishes are leaky generalizations, derived from the huge but finite structure that is your entire morality. Only by including this entire structure can you plug all the leaks. With a safe genie, wishing is superfluous. Just run the genie.
With a safe genie, wishing is superfluous. Just run the genie. If the genie knew, the only way for the genie to give us exactly what we want is for the genie to know all of our morality, to know all, oh, I don't want this. I want my grandma to be safe. I want her to be happy. But what about if your grandma has a, bubonic plague, and if she survives the fire, she's going to spread it. So I also want her to be cured of this bubonic plague, and I don't want other people to die. I don't want a hurricane to come and put out the fire that she's in, but the hurricane kills other people. So all these things at different levels. You got the bigger levels. I don't want, I want her to live, but I don't want other people to die in the tornado that puts out the fire on our house. I want her to live, but at the smaller levels, but I don't want her legs to be cut off when she's getting saved. She's trapped under a beam, but then they cut her in half and then they save her upper torso. That's also a bad thing. So the only way that this machine can give us what we want is for it to know what we see on the left, our entire morality, right? So all we have to do is get all of our morality into the machine, right? But the machine is not bound by our morality. The genie is impossibly strong and big. So it can do things that transcend our morality. It could save our galaxy, but destroy another galaxy that we haven't even thought. It's capable of doing things that we can't even comprehend. So our morality is not big enough to do everything that we want it to. Our morality is not big enough to see the full picture. So even when we're wishing, it's not the wish coming from us, but our wish has to go through a higher desire. Our wish has to say, I'm not even capable of wishing for what I want. I have to say, I wish for the best thing to be done. Exactly what they're saying at the end of the video.
Wishing is superfluous.
Wishing is superfluous. Let's see that one more time.
Only by including this entire structure can you plug all the leaks. With a safe genie, wishing is superfluous. Just run the genie.
Wishing is superfluous. Run the genie. But he's saying if it knows everything we want, we don't even have to tell it to do things because it would already know what we want and then just do that. But what about if our morality, and they run through all these examples. This is the example of, the guy dying in the fire, but saving grandma. We got the concerto that gets burned, but we save grandma. So if I don't have a philosophy degree, how do I know what's correct in my morality? What's better? Do save grandma's life and burn up all this paperwork that was in her basement, all these famous concertos that are going to get lost, or to save her? Which one is better? What about if, grandma has that bubonic plague and she survives, but she spreads the bubonic plague and kills everybody out? Like all these levels. So I'm not, even if the genie knows my entire morality, I don't even know what is best for me. I don't even know how to answer all these questions. Is it better for two people to die? I don't have all the answers. All I can do is to say, I want the good to be done. All I can say is, even from my stuck position,
the only safe genie is a genie that shares all your judgment criteria.
But the only safe genie isn't just one that shares all my judgment criteria, because I don't only will the good for myself. I also do evil. Oh, who will save me from this body of sin and death? The evil that I do not want to do, I do. The good that I want to do, I do not do. Who will save me from this body of sin and death? Who can save us is only the one who represents the good. So even the genie that already knows our hearts and does the will of us, if it's our slave, it is going to do the evil that is secretly in our hearts. It is going to have the outcomes that we do not want to have. And that's the problem. And so what can we do? What can we do if we don't know what is for the best? And even in the video, they answer the question. All right, this is one of the skipped over parts.
You cry, "Get my mother out of the building."
Nope.
For luck. And press enter.
Wrong part. Everybody pretend that didn't happen, folks. Folks, stay with me. Stay with me. We're doing bits on bits on bits.
Required patches isn't a good way to go. It would be like programming a calculator by explicitly adding ever more.
So this is when they're talking about the parameters. They're saying that I want my grandma alive. I want her outside the building. I want her with her legs intact. I want her with her arms intact. It doesn't work to just add more and more layers to the calculator. It doesn't add 1 + 1 = 2, 1 + 2 = 3. You can't just program a calculator by adding every addition together.
Assertions like 15 + 15 = 30, but 15 + 16 = 31 instead. What you really need is an algorithm that produces true answers to additions by capturing the actual process of adding up two numbers, not a giant lookup table with additions. How do you, in your head, exclude the outcome where the building explodes?
So they just gave up the game. They just gave up the game right there. What is this? What is this? The first part where he says we're adding up. We're saying 15 + 15 = 30. 15 + 16 = 31. That is the law. That is just saying do this and this and this will happen. Don't do this or this will happen. That is just saying that we have our own understanding. But then he says we can't do that. It's too complicated.
Instead.
You'll never.
What you really need is an algorithm that produces true answers to additions.
What you really need is an algorithm that produces true answers to additions. Okay, it's a little mathy, but we got the idea. What we really need is not each individual answer to every single addition problem. 1,000,000 + 1,000,000 is 2,000,000. 1,000,001 + 1,000,000 is 2,000,001. We can't do it that way. What we need to do is have a relationship to addition. We need to understand the relationship of addition. And in the same way, what do we want? When we ask the genie, what are we asking for? We're asking for the good to be done. We're asking for what is good. That's what we want to happen. Well, do you want to save your grandma? Yes. What about it? She's got the bubonic plague and she's going to kill everybody. Okay, heal her of the bubonic plague, then bring her out of the building, and then she can hang out with the grandkids. Okay, but her living, the ambulance that she rides in, there's a car crash because someone crashes into the ambulance. Okay, we'll prevent that car crash by making someone put down their phone and not get. Okay, we can't add up all the parameters. All we can say is, Lord, all we can say is, I want the good to be good. Where is the good? Where can we locate the good? And this is where we get to, I'm not even going to go there yet. So there's the universe, then there's me, and I have the smaller understanding, right? Like, I don't even understand all of the universe. You know, this is that image from the video. It's like my meek understanding is not infinite, as he said. So I only got this stuff in my brain. I like pizza, I like bagels, I hate Mondays, I love Garfield, you know, all this, that's all the information I got in my head because I'm a big dummy. But I'm trapped in a bigger universe. And I should have done a reveal on this. I'm trapped in this bigger universe. So all I can say is, I want, you know, how do I know what is best? And even if the genie could know everything that I want, guess what? There's you. And you're smaller than me because I'm more important. But there's me, there's you. There's other people who are even smaller than you and I, because you and I, we team up, and then others are even lower on the totem pole because we were here first. But we got you, we got me, we got the three of us. How do we coordinate? How do we coordinate between all goods? How do we optimize among all the different people? Is we need an abstraction. We need, and I should have done the slides different. We need God. That's why God's at the top and he's in the biggest lettering. Is we need some higher principle to say, I just want the good to be done. You just need to go up to the genie and say, you don't even need to wish for anything. You just need the genie. You just need to say, I wish the good to be done. I wish for what I wish for. I wish for good. That's what we're asking for. But what happens when we see the evil in the world? What happens when we don't see the good? When we're confused about the good? And we have the story of Job. Then Job broke his silence. He spoke up. You know, this is after Job is being tormented by the Satan, by the enemy, by Satan. Obliterate the day I was born, blank out the night I was conceived. Let it be a black hole in space. May God above forget it ever happened. I don't even want to live. I'm out of the game. It's too hard. I can't save grandma. Life is too hard. I'm being tortured by Satan. What is the point of me even being alive? And how can I possibly prevail in these circumstances? And what does God say? He says exactly what we would expect him to say in this situation if we understand our parameters. He says, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? You weren't even there. You don't even have everything. You can't fit everything into your head. That's exactly what the rationalists are saying. They're saying your mind, it's funny, they're giving humans a lot of credit because they're saying like, oh, well, if you just, you know, the genie would need to know everything in your mind. But everything in my mind is not all of the foundations of the earth. I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers. Even if the genie that's all powerful could fulfill all of my desires, there's no guarantee that would be the maximal good for all people. So a good genie needs direction. And that direction is going to come from God, because God is the only thing that can take into account all the goods of the universe, that the me, the you, the others, all of us together. How can we all be harmonized? But like Job's saying, the big problem is, okay, if God's so good, if he's such an awesome dude, why am I suffering? Why are things bad? Because once again, our minds are not filled with all the things of God. We don't see the full picture. And this is exactly what it says in 1 Corinthians 2:16. Who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct it? Okay, who can tell the genie what to do? If God's the genie, who can tell the genie what to do? No one can tell the genie what to do. No one is higher than the Lord. But I don't even want to make that point yet. But we have the ability, I'll just make it. Who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. It's not that we have all the information. We don't have all the answers. We haven't done all the math. We haven't added every single number together, but we have a relationship to the good through Christ. And even part of that, and the unknowing, the saying like, who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? We don't have all the answers. When we cry out, we're going to cry out and say, God, this isn't fair. I'm done playing the game. I don't know what to tell the genie. I don't know what is good, what is evil. But when we accept the Lord, he gives us the mind of Christ and says, you have a relationship with the good. And I took out this one, but this is Proverbs 25:2, is the glory of God to seek out, is the glory of God to hide a thing, and in the glory of kings to search it out. That Lord, that even the questions that he puts on our heart, they're there for a reason. We can't fully know God until we have the mind of Christ, until we search out. So even the questions are acceptable. Even the questions are fine, because we're not going to have all the answers. We're not going to know every solution to every problem, but we have the one who gives the solutions. We have the lawgiver. More than the answer to each addition question, we have a relationship with Christ, who is the one who gives the law. That's why we live under the Spirit and not under the law, is because we can't know the answer to every question. We can't tell the genie exactly what to do. It's too complicated. There's too much, but we don't have the answer, but we have the pattern, and the pattern is more important than the answer, because we can work with the pattern. And what happens? What happens to old Job, who is crying out? Job's crying out. It's like, my brain's too small. I can't do it. I'm not smart enough to do it. My brain, this is his brain. It's limited. It's limited, just like rational animation said. So what do we do with this limited brain of ours? Is we cry out, and then my servant. And what does God say when Job cries out and says, I don't even want to be alive anymore. I don't even want to be at the party anymore. My servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer and not deal with you according to your folly. So he accepts his prayers. He accepts Job's prayers for his friends. Well, why do his friends need prayers? Because you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. That Job, in searching out the things that are hidden by God, the fact that his mind is searching for the things of God, that he's searching above what he's capable. He has his limited brain, but he cries out and he says, I don't understand. And God says, yeah, you don't understand, but you're not sinning, because I didn't design you to know everything. You're not meant to know everything. You're meant to question God. We are Israel. We are the ones who wrestle with God, and that's okay. As long as you speak truthfully, as long as you do not sin against the Holy Spirit, as long as you do not say that as long as you do not defame what is good, or the Spirit that tells you what is good, you have that Job is speaking the truth. Even when he says, I don't even want to be here anymore, you have not spoken the truth about me, as my servant Job has. Job struggles with the questions. He doesn't know the answers. He doesn't know what to tell the genie, but he doesn't sin. And he's doing what is right and good in the name of the Lord. After this, Job lived 140 years. He saw his children and their children to the fourth generation. And Job is rewarded because he's a righteous man who struggles with the questions that the Lord gives us. That to struggle with the questions is not what is strange. That we keep the faith and that we don't lose out on the gifting of God, our relationship with God, that is what is important. Who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? You can't tell God what to do. You don't even know what to tell the genie to do. And even if you did tell the genie what to do, it wouldn't be what's good for all people, because you're not as smart. You don't take into account all goods. You're not smart enough. Even the rationalists are saying that. Your brain is not smart enough. But you have a relationship. You have a relationship with the good in Christ. Who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Christ. That we have a relationship with what is highest through the Son of God, who gave his life so that we could live forever in the kingdom of heaven. Amen. This is the idea, is we don't know all the answers, that we cry out like Job. We're scared. We don't understand. Even if we try to save grandma, we can't save grandma. But what we've been given through Christ is a relationship with the lawgiver, is the relationship with the one who gives the answers. And so far as we do not break that relationship, that is a salvific force. That is the thing that will lead us to the place of eternal life. That is the New Jerusalem. And we don't have to know all the answers, but we have to trust the one who does have the answers, and that our relationship to him through his Son, who is perfect and sent to us by the Father, and that we have faith that there are answers to the questions that he's put on our heart. And that's what I wanted to tell everybody about in this video. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it interesting that, you know, these rationalist channels are bringing back genies and myth and the idea of good and answers, and how we have a relationship with what is best, what is good, and how do we know what we know, and how do we move forward with the good, with how limited we are. We have a relationship with what is best. We have a relationship with the highest value, which is God. All right. Thanks, guys.